Hey, welcome back to the Spanish lesson. This is now part 2 of us going over the last part. We went over the imperfect subjunctive tense in the Spanish language. And we are going to finish going over the conditional tense and some useful phrases there. And then we are going to go over the imperative affirmative to start out. And then hopefully by next time we can get into the future indicative and maybe the negative imperative, and I could show you some more tenses. I might actually show you the subjunctive pluperfect. Just starting off by the present tense subjunctive, right? I would also like to conjugate some verbs that we haven't actually covered. I thought of some more verbs like querer, trabajar. I even thought about conjugating hacer and traer and even traducir as well. Let's get our whiteboard out and do that, shall we? Get our fancy little whiteboard out. So, I would actually like to conjugate, let me think. You got, because the conditional tense has some pretty tricky ones, like the last time we conjugated saber, right? We actually tried to conjugate conocer one time, but that one's not too tricky. Verbs like hacer, maybe, yeah, querer is a tricky one. Tener is a really tricky one as well. But first, let's conjugate the verb hacer in the conditional. So we're going to draw our little conjugation table here, just like we normally do when we conjugate verbs in Spanish, right? Or any other language, right? So for now, I want to conjugate the verb hacer in the indicative, not the indicative imperfect, the indicative conditional. So what is wrong with it when I say hacería? My keyboard needs to be in Spanish. What is wrong with hacería? Why is it conjugated in the yo form yo haría? For pronunciation, right? Hacería would be a word that does not exist in the Spanish language. So hacer conjugated in the yo form of the conditional indicative is yo haría. To harías, él, ella y usted haría. Nosotros, nosotras haríamos. Vosotros y vosotras haríais. Ellos, ellas y ustedes harían. See? See? What a beautiful way to start out part 2 of this series. So, the Spanish verb hacer conjugated in the conditional indicative is yo haría, tú harías, él, ella y usted haría. Nosotros y nosotras haríamos. Vosotros y vosotras haríais. Ellos, ellas y ustedes harían. See? Now, before we move on, I would like to go over this again. And remember that the yo form and the él, ella, usted form are the exact same conjugations. Okay. So let us conjugate the verb tener. We're going to try the verb tener now. We haven't conjugated tener since we were doing the indicative present tense. Well, maybe we did tener when we were doing the subjunctive present tense and the preterite and imperfect, right? If we didn't go over tener in the imperfect, I could go over that with you, but we'll wait until later to do that. Right now, I want to focus on the conditional indicative. So tener is a pretty tricky one in the conditional indicative. Yo tendría. See that? Tú tendrías. Él, ella y usted tendría. And in the plural form, nosotros y nosotras tendríamos. See that? Vosotros y vosotras, only used in Spain. Tendríais. Ellos, ellas y ustedes tendrían. Tendrían. What is wrong with it if I say tenería? What is wrong with tenería? See, tenería is a word that does not exist in the Spanish language. So I would like to mark a red X on that, because that is a Spanish word that does not exist. Go back to my original color. So the verb tener conjugated in the conditional indicative is yo tendría, tú tendrías, él, ella y usted tendría, nosotros y nosotras tendríamos, vosotros y vosotras tendríais, ellos, ellas y ustedes tendrían. This is just a falsely conjugated verb with a red X over it. Okay, now I want to go over querer. Querer is the most very tricky one. First, I actually want to try conjugating querer in the imperfect so you guys can get a taste of what the conjugation is like here. First, I'm just going to conjugate one in the imperfect indicative. Ugh. I hate it when I do that. It just drives me crazy. That's okay. Jeez. Doesn't that drive you nuts when it's just the stupid mouse I'm using? I got an itchy leg. I may as well scratch. Well, if the line looks a little crooked, that's because I'm using the mouse. I'll just draw it the best I can. I don't really care. Okay. Anyways, let's get into the verb querer. So the verb querer. So you know in the present tense, the yo form is quiero, right? That's the present indicative, and quiera would be the subjunctive present, and quise would be the preterite indicative, and this should finally give you a taste of what it will be in the conditional. Quería. See that? That's the imperfect indicative. In order for it to be the conditional indicative, it must be quería. Quería. You got to roll those R's even harder. I actually want to show you what it's like in the imperfect subjunctive, and well, it's quisiera. Or there's another kind of conjugation, quisiese, which we rarely use, right? Yo quería. See that? You quería. You can't just say quería. You have to say quería, right? Now in the to form, in the indicative present, it is quieres. You know that. And in the present subjunctive, it is quieras, right? The preterite is quisiste in the to form, right? In the imperfect indicative, it is querías, right? In the imperfect subjunctive, it is quisieras or quisieses, right? And now in the and now in the conditional indicative, it is querías, 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 right? You got to really roll those R's. Querer is the trickiest one. Now, in the él, ella, y usted form, you actually know in the present indicative it is quiere. And in the present subjunctive, it is quiera, right? Quiso in the preterite indicative, quería in the imperfect indicative, right? Quisiera in the imperfect subjunctive, or quisiese, right? Now for the conditional indicative, it is quería, quería, right? That's what makes this tense so tricky, is that you've got a minor stem change right here, right? Now we're going to go plural. So, but notice in the present form of the indicative, it is queremos in the nosotros, nosotras form. And that would be queramos in the subjunctive present, right? Quisimos in the preterite indicative, right? Queríamos in the imperfect indicative. Quisiéramos in the imperfect subjunctive, right? Or it can be quisies, still an accent, and still a tilde in the E there, right? Quisiésemos, right? That's another way you can conjugate the indicative subjunctive. The imperfect subjunctive. Sorry, I'm mixed up. Now, in the conditional indicative, it is queríamos. Queríamos. Yeah, that's kind of tricky. Now, in the vosotros y vosotras form, in the indicative present, it is queréis, right? And in the subjunctive, it is querais. And in the preterite, it is quisistes, right? And in the imperfect indicative, it is querais. And in the imperfect subjunctive, it is quisierais, still an accent in the A, or quisieses, right? Just going over that rare conjugation in the imperfect subjunctive there. And now in the conditional indicative, it is querais. No, queríais, right? Queríais, because you got to really roll those double R's. And finally, in the ellos y ustedes form, it is going to be in the present indicative, quieren, right? Quieran in the present subjunctive, right? Quisieron in the preterite, querían in the imperfect indicative, quisieron in imperfect subjunctive, or quisiesen, going over that rare conjugation. In the conditional, it is querían, right? Querían. So, querer conjugated in the not the imperfect, the conditional indicative rather is yo quería, tú querías, él, ella y usted quería, nosotros y nosotras queríamos, vosotros y vosotras queríais, ellos, ellas y ustedes querían, right? Really practice rolling these double R's. I mean, the toughest word is railroad in Spanish. Ferrocarril. That's a really tough one right there. Huh. Let's go over some useful phrases, shall we? Yeah, let's go over some use. I'd like to use something rather than pink. What the heck? Let's just use red. Okay. Okay. So let me think. Trying to think. I got to get my thinking cap on. No. I'm a little mixed up. Yo bailaría a la música. What do you think that means? Just pause the video, and I encourage you to pause the video and try to translate it. Okay, I'd assume you've done that. So. I would dance to the music, right? I mean, you would use would because biladia is actually very conditional. Or what if I said I could dance to the music? That would be a possible. Or you can use should, right? Because this is a conditional, and it has many translations you could think of it as, right? That's the nice thing about the conditional tense. Um, let's think of one that's like, how about this one? What do you think that means? He would eat some apples is a possible meaning, or he could eat some apples. That's another possible meaning, or he should eat some apples, right? I mean, that's the nice thing about the conditional is you can use would, could, or should, right? Actually, let's do one that's plural now. Let's kind of challenge things up a little bit and use names. So, um, uh, what do you think that means? I beg you to try it. Felipe and Maria would bring a cake to class. And if I could read it in Spanish, Felipe y María traerían un pastel a la clase. Now, another possible meaning is Felipe and Maria could bring a cake to class. Or Felipe and Maria should bring a cake to class. Right? That's the one nice thing about using the conditional tense, right? I mean, it just depends on the situation. So now comes the time where we're going to go over the imperative. I'm going to need my Spanish dictionary for that. I'm not that good in the imperative, so don't mind me if I use the Spanish dictionary just to check my work. So we're going to go with the affirmative imperative. So starting out with the verb said. Starting out with the two key verbs. I should actually do abed too, because abed is another key verb to use. So for the verb said. Now in the imperative, there is no conjugation in the yo form, right? So there is no conjugation in the yo form for the imperative. So in the to form, it is to say, right? Ellos y ustedes sea, nosotros y nosotras seamos, vosotros y vosotras sed, right? Ellos, ellas y ustedes sean. See that? Now, ser in the affirmative imperative, no conjugation for the yo. To say, él, ella y usted sea, nosotros y nosotras seamos, vosotros y vosotras sed, ellos, ellas y ustedes sean. See that? Now, we're going to try the verb estar. And again, there is no conjugation in the yo form. So in the affirmative imperative, it is tú está, right? Él, ella y usted esté. Nosotros y nosotras estemos. Vosotros y vosotras estad. Ellos, ellas y ustedes estén. See? So, in the imperative, in the affirmative imperative for estar, tú está, él, ella y usted esté, nosotros, nosotras estemos, vosotros y vosotras estad, ellos, ellas y ustedes estén. See that? You know what? Why don't we do the verb abed? I mean, I haven't covered abed that much. I gave you a little taste of the verb abed in our my 300 subscriber video, but we're going to do the verb abed right now as it is. So I'm only marking an X there because there's no conjugation in the O form in the imperative. Okay, so in the to form, it is tu e, right? El, ella, y usted, haya. Nosotros y nosotras hayamos. Vosotros y vosotras habed. Ellos, ellas y ustedes hayan. So, in the affirmative imperative for the verb haber, the conjugations are done in the yo form. Tu e, ellos, ellas y ustedes haya. Nosotros, nosotras hayamos. Vosotros, vosotras habed. Ellos, ellas y ustedes hayan. Now, it's going to start getting a little bit trickier now. We're going to get into some real verbs now. So, you know what? Let's start with the verb tomar. I drawn that almost perfectly. No conjugation in the yo form. Tu toma. El, ella, usted, tome. Nosotros y nosotras tomemos. Vosotros y vosotras, I do believe, tomad. Yep, tomad. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, tomen, I think. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So the conjugations in the affirmative imperative for tomar, nothing in the yo. Tu toma. El, ella y usted tome. Nosotros, nosotras tomemos. Vosotros, vosotras tomad. Ellos, no, yeah. Ellos, ellas y ustedes tomen. Okay. I thought of some other verbs we could do, like, actually, let's try the verb querer. How about the verb querer? We haven't covered querer so much. So, no conjugation in the yo form. Tu quiere. El, ella y usted quiera. Nosotros, nosotras queramos. vosotros y vosotras quered, ellos, ellas y ustedes quieran. So, querer in the affirmative imperative, no conjugation in the yo form. Tú quiere, él, ella y usted quiera. Nosotros y nosotras queramos. Vosotros y vosotras quered. Ellos, ellas, ustedes quieran. Okay. Things are starting to get really tricky here. So, what if I did the verb like dibujar? We're going to try the verb dibujar. Tú dibuja. Él, ella y usted dibuje. Nosotros, nosotras dibujemos. Vosotros y vosotras dibujad. Ellos, ellas y ustedes dibujen. So, in the affirmative imperative, dibujar conjugated is nothing in the yo form. Tú dibuja. Él, ella y usted dibuje. Nosotros y nosotras dibujemos. Vosotros y vosotras dibujad. Ellos, ellas y ustedes dibujen. Yeah, let's try a couple more verbs. I mean, just because of time consumption, we're going to do a couple more verbs. Let's use sky blue. Sky blue is a pretty color. I thought of another verb like escribir. Let's try escribir. Okay. Tú escribe. Él, ella y usted escriba. Nosotros, nosotras escribamos. Vosotros, vosotras escribid. Ellos, ellas y ustedes escriban. Check my work here. Up, I was wrong. This one is actually escribid. Escribid. Sorry about that. Dang it. I need my eraser. I knew I would make a mistake here along the way. This one is actually escribid. So, escribir in the imperative affirmative is nothing in the yo form. Tú escribe. Él, ella, usted escriba. Nosotros, nosotras escribamos. Vosotros, vosotras escribid. Ellos, ellas y ustedes escriban. I even thought of the verb preferir as well. I mean, there's a million verbs out there, man. I thought of the verb preferir. No yo form. Tú prefiere. Él, ella, usted prefiera. Prefiera. Nosotros, nosotras prefiramos. Vosotros y vosotras preferid. Ellos, ellas, ustedes prefieran. Preferir. Conjugated in the affirmative imperative. No yo form. Tú prefiere. Él, ella, usted prefiera. Nosotros, nosotras prefiramos. Vosotros, vosotras preferid. Ellos, ellas, ustedes prefieran. And that little clock on the wall is telling me that I need to go over some useful phrases. We're going to use blue this time. Come tu verduras. What do you think that means? Eat your vegetables, right? Sorry about that. I made a mistake actually clicking And I was going to show you guys another possible saying. You could say come tu vegetales, right? Ha- Haga su tarea. What do you think that means? Do your homework. That easy. What do you think that means? Yo quisiera trabajen con ellos. I would like to work with them, right? And that little clock on the wall says, I believe we are almost out of time. So I just wanted to show you guys some more conjugations that we didn't actually go over. So I just want to go over, let's choose like one or two verbs while we still have time. So we never went much over the verb querer, or let's just go over querer and hacer. So the verb querer. First, I want to start with the indicative present. Yo quiero. Tú quieres. Él, ella y usted quiere. Nosotros y nosotras queremos. Vosotros y vosotras queréis. Ellos, ellas y ustedes quieren. See that? Now this is the indicative present. querer conjugated in the indicative present is yo quiero, tú quieres, él, ella y usted quiere, nosotros, nosotras queremos, vosotros, vosotras queréis, ellos, ellas y ustedes quieren. A little magic eraser here. Now let's go over the subjunctive present. So, yo quiera, tú quieras, él, ella y usted quiera, nosotros, nosotras quieramos, vosotros y vosotras quieráis, ellos, ellas y ustedes quieran. Now conjugated, same verb in the subjunctive present. Yo quiera, tú quieras, él, ella y usted quiera, nosotros, nosotras quieramos, vosotros, vosotras quieráis, ellos, ellas y ustedes quieran. Okay, let's go with the preterite. Yo quise, tú quisiste, ellos, ellas y no, él, ella, usted hizo, nosotros, nosotras quisimos, vosotros, vosotras quisisteis, ellos, ellas y ustedes quisieron. See that? So in the preterite indicative, querer is conjugated yo quise, tú quisiste, ellos, no, él, ella, usted quiso, nosotros, nosotras quisimos, vosotros, vosotras quisisteis, ellos, ellas, ustedes quisieron. Imperfect indicative. Yo quería. Tú querías. Ellos, ellas, ustedes quería. Nosotros, nosotras queríamos. Vosotros, vosotras queríais. Ellos, ellas, ustedes querían. Now in the imperfect indicative, yo quería, tú querías, él, ella y usted quería, nosotros, nosotras queríamos, vosotros, vosotras queríais, ellos, ellas, ustedes querían. Okay. Now, let us try the subjunctive imperfect. And I just want to do it the way we were taught to do it. So, yo quisiera. Tú quisieras. Él, ella y usted quisiera. Nosotros, nosotras quisiéramos, accent of the E. Vosotros y vosotras quisierais. Ellos, ellas y ustedes quisieran. So, conjugated in the imperfect subjunctive is yo quisiera, tú quisieras, él, ella, usted quisiera, nosotros, nosotras quisiéramos, vosotros, vosotras quisierais, ellos, ellas, ustedes quisieran. And I just showed you earlier in this video about the conditional, so I won't go over that. I would like to try the imperative if we can. I mean, this is just a bonus, and this is about the only verb we're going to have time to actually do. So, if I didn't show you querer in the imperative affirmative, I'm going to show you that right now. Yeah, I don't think I showed you that. So, no conjugation in the yo form, remember. Tú quiere. Él, ella y usted quiera. Because it's like a combination of the indicative and the subjunctive at the same time, right? Nosotros, nosotras queramos. Vosotros, vosotras quered. Ellos, ellas, ustedes quieran. Now, in the imperative form, the verb querer, the imperative affirmative, rather, is nothing in the yo form, tú quiere, él, ella y usted quiera, nosotros, nosotras queramos, vosotros, vosotras quered, ellos, ellas, ustedes quieran. And that's about all the time we have left. We will stop it right here. And our next lesson, we will go over the indicative future tense. And I'll also show off the rare subjunctive future tense as well. Hopefully we'll be getting into reflexive pronouns, and we will also cover like one of the other tenses, like the subjunctive pluperfect, right? The pluperfect is where you use the verb haber and you use a past participle. And I just showed you guys that in the present pluperfect when we went over that in the 300 sub video. So remember, guys, just make good choices and don't get arrested. And I will see you later. It's getting kind of late. I mean, I'm kind of sleepy. So it's a buzzkill time now. So go big, go small, do whatever. You got to go big. Josh, AK Killer, signing off. Peace. E. Buena suerte. Adios. Hasta luego.